What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the final round. I'm your host, Isaiah, and today I'm going to be talking about Merab Dvalishvili and where I think he can end up being, and if he can break into that MMA Mount Rushmore, because I personally am starting to believe that this guy can probably do it. But let's look at Merab. He's currently the bantamweight champion. He has an upcoming defense this weekend against Corey Sandhagen at UFC 320. And the reason I'm making this video is I've taken a step back and looked at Merab, and I think Merab currently is a GSP type generational fighter. Like we have not seen someone to his degree in ages. And I've said this once, and I'll say this before. I don't think he's the most skilled in, like he's definitely not the best in the striking or the grappling, but his relentless cardio, his relentless drive to win a fight is unmatched, and no one has been able to stop him. Every guy he's fought has had good cardio, and up to a point, they do well, and then you see them break, and Marab doesn't break. He still looks fresh, and he still is going and going and going. But let's get right into Marab's career here. Um, I will increase the size. But look at his career. Ever since his Frankie Sanchez loss, and then his Rafael Stout, his Ricky Simone loss, he turned the corner. He flipped a switch, and he has not lost a fight since. And the first couple guys up until you know John Dodson are very unknown. Brad Katona is back in the UFC, but he's nowhere near the top. John Dodson was once a great, and that's a good fight. Cody Staman's a known name, but nowhere in top 15 level of the bantamweight division. But it's after that when he hits Marlon Moraes. He's gone on a generational type of run, and he was almost put out against Marlon Moraes. I remember that, and any other ref in that fight other than no nonsense Keith Peterson, they probably stopped that fight and he's got a loss right there. But no nonsense Keith Peterson was like, I'll let them be warriors and fucking let Marab come back from basically the edge of the shadow realm. And he came back. And then he put Marlon out. And then he went in there and it was a boring fight against Jose Aldo where Jose was stuffing every single takedown. But Marab kept doing it and it was just being held against the fence for all 3 rounds, sort of a boring fight. And you move on to Piotr Jan, and this is when people started to realize, oh shit, Marab's a problem because Marab in that fight shot, let me see, the record number of takedowns, and he didn't stop for the entirety of the 5 rounds he was going at it. And he was up against Piotr Jan, who former champion, and also Jose Aldo, former champion, one of the greatest of all time. But he shot 49 takedowns in that fight. He got 11 of them, but he shot 49 takedowns. That's basically 10 takedowns around. The cardio to be able to do that to a former champion and one of the most well-rounded fighters in Piotr Jan is unreal. And he outlanded him on 202 total strikes to 87. So that was a complete and utter domination by Merab Dvalishvili there. And then you move on to the Henry Cejudo fight where going in, I was like, this is going to be a hard fight for Merab. Henry Cejudo is a tough guy. But yet again, what did we see? Merab went in there. He drowned his opponent. just shot takedown after takedown against former double champion Henry Cejudo, Olympic wrestling champion Henry Cejudo. He ha- and yeah, he was past his prime, but this is still Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo gave Aljamain Sterling on his return fight a hard fight, and it was a split decision, and arguably maybe could have won that fight, but he destroyed Henry, and in the middle of the fight, picked Henry up from on one side of the cage, walks him over to the other side of the cage where Dana and Mark Zuckerberg were sitting, and then slams Henry on the ground. Utter domination by Merab. It was like shit. This dude's this dude has to be next. There's no one else for him other than the title, and he gets his title shot at the Sphere. You know, once in a lifetime event, and it was not the most exciting fight, but he controlled and dominated current champion at the time and now former champion Sean O'Malley. And it was just complete domination. There was no argument that Sean O'Malley could have ever won that fight. I don't know why anyone ever said that Sean O'Malley had an argument, but he got utterly dominated in that fight. So there's nothing to say about that. And then we move on to Umar Nurmagomedov, the fight that everyone said he was ducking. He's ducking Umar. Umar's the rightful contender. Umar's the rightful champion. He should be fighting Merab right now. They were giving Merab shit for not doing a quick turnaround, but also Merab was saying Umar did not deserve to fight for the title. He wanted to fight former champions like Figgy or Petr Yan at the time. And yeah, at the time I agreed. Umar did not deserve the title shot, even though he beat the number one contender Corey Sandhagen at the time. But in that fight, it was a razor sharp fight, razor close. But Rob pulled it out of his ass, and he. What is the most shocking and craziest thing about this fight is that the Nurmagomedov name, in my opinion, is what the Gracie's name were at the time the UFC started. They are that prominent name that everyone recognizes that, oh shit, they get you to the ground. Oh shit, it's over. And that's the case in every other fight we've seen with Nurmagomedov. And Umar was having a lot of success those first two rounds. In the third round, Merab didn't wilt. Umar started to wilt. And that was the same case for rounds 4 and 5. Umar was wilting. And I've never seen Khabib more stressed in his life, other than when Tagir fought Tim Elliott. But he was stressed for this fight because Umar was getting drowned in the pace and the cardio, and Rob was making him look like a fool. And going into this fight, I was saying Umar is the only one that can handle Merab, but Merab is the only one that can handle Umar. And we saw in that fight, Umar got drowned and got outworked and handed the Magomedov's family their first loss. All right, that's unreal, and I think that holds high as a title fight because let's be real, Umar can possibly beat Merab in a rematch, and if not, Umar probably will be the champion of this division after Merab leaves. Because I don't see anyone matching Umar's pace and pressure in the octagon. No one at bantamweight right now, at least. But then he moves on to the rematch with Sean O'Malley at UFC 316 that Jake and I were at. Let me pull up the video, but that fight was also domination. Merab got him to the ground. Merab dominated him, made it look easy. Let's see, right here. Let me turn it down. There it is. There it is. And you can hear Merab, you hear Jake yelling Merab in the background. Yep, there it is. There it is. Fucking domination. And he, as a champion, we don't see this much, but as a champion, Merab evolved, and he's still evolving. And it's a generational type run. You got one, two, three, four former champions, and arguably the next champion after Rob. But and people give him a lot of shit for having a lot of decisions. But let's be real. It's in the decisions. It's all him. His opponent really doesn't isn't able to do much other than the Umar fight. It's all him. And what baffles me more about Merab is recently this week actually Mighty Mouse released an interview he had with Merab where Merab showed up late and apparently Merab is late to everything. Dates, training practice. He's late to everything. He's late to training. He shows up. He doesn't warm up. He does not stretch. He just goes right into training. And multiple people have backed this up. He's late and he just comes in and goes right into practice. Just starts hitting mitts or start doing rounds. And he's fine. And his cardio is unlike anything we've ever seen. We haven't seen anyone weaponize cardio I think in a long time up to the level Marab is. Like the only one that I can think that comes to mind is fucking BJ Penn because he weaponized his cardio back in his prime. But Marab was on a generational run and he's fighting Corey Sandhagen this weekend. And I'm rooting for Corey. I really want Corey to win, but how can you how can you bet against Marab? How can you doubt Marab at this point? He is on a generational type run, and I think he is going to continue that run. And I think he has an argument to eventually, at the end of his career, if he keeps winning, I think he can get on that MMA Mount Rushmore. I think he can knock somebody off and take the place. Because the, let's move on. Because in terms of MMA Mount Rushmore, we have the four guys up at the top. We've got Anderson Silva, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, and GSP and John Jones, some of the greatest fighters in UFC history. The four goats everyone talks about. But they existed at a time, and I'm not downplaying their records or downplaying their skills, but they existed at a time where the quality of competition was different to what the quality of competition is today. The fighters today are more well-rounded and more evolved than the fighters back then. And it's true because I love DJ, I love Anderson, and I love GSP and John. Well, not so much John, but the other three I love. But you go back and you look at their their win streaks and their records. Like let's look at Anderson's record, right? He he has the record for most UFC wins in a row. No, John, it's John. That got replaced. But let's look at some of his title fights, right? James Irvin, Patrick Cope, Salas Letis, Damian Maya, Yushin Okami. That's just to name a few. And while I'm not downplaying them as fighters, I don't think they're as good as like some of the fighters today. Like you look at the welterweight division is so much more flush with well-rounded fighters than it was back in GSP's time. You look at Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. He has the most title fight victories in UFC history. But let's see some of these guys are against. John Morga, Joseph Benavidez, Ali Bagutinov, Chris Caruso. Like you got names like John Dodson and Kyoji Horiguchi who are good names, and Henry Cejudo, Tim Elliott. But Wilson Rice, who's Wilson Rice? I'm not downplaying these guys' skill. It's just you see a pattern, right? The guys today are more well-rounded than the guys of yesterday, and I think depending on how Merab can finish his career, and depending how Merab wins his next couple fights, he has a. I think he has a chance to get on this list and to throw in someone like GSP. I really do. And it could be a hot take, and people could say I'm being stupid. I know my co-host Jay thinks I'm fucking spitting facts because Merab is his favorite fighter of all time. But the fact of the matter is, while this MMA Mount Rushmore is filled with guys who pioneered the sport and determined records that are hard to break and set the standard, I think the fighters today have a chance to surpass these guys and get on this MMA Mount Rushmore. But at the same time, it is all opinion based. It is all opinion based. Some fighters could have Mighty Mouse off this Mount Rushmore and put Amanda Nunes or Conor McGregor. I know Dana White doesn't have Mighty Mouse on his. I know Dana White doesn't have Anderson on his. He got Nunes and Conor McGregor and John. And I'm pretty sure DSP, but it's all opinion based. And my opinion is Merab will be on this MMA Mount Rushmore by the end of his career. Because I think, while I do want Corey to win, I think Merab goes out there and finds a way to win. And he beats Corey. And while Corey has not been a champion, he's basically fought everyone in the division as one of the most tenured fighters right now and active in the division. Um, and I don't know who he fights next. Mario Batista's fighting Umar, and they're gonna probably, if Umar wins, probably shove Umar back into the title fight again because Dana. But I don't think they should. I think you give some Merab a super fight against someone like Pantoja, and if Merab can beat Pantoja, that's another former champion, great champion on his record. So I think Merab, all said, I think Merab by the end of his career reaches the level that a lot of people think he can, and I don't know if he ever gets finished. I don't know if he gets knocked out, but but look, guess what? I'm talking about Merab and singing his praises. But watch, Merab gets finished this weekend after I release this video, and I jinxed it. Oh fuck! But I don't think that happens. And I think Merab is the next great fight. The might be one of the greatest fighters of this era, and arguably has an argument to be pound for pound number one with former champions on his record compared to Islam and Ilya. I'm not saying he should be above them. He has an argument to be number one, and will by the end of his career have an argument to be on this MMA Mount Rushmore. But that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Thank you all for watching and listening to me rant about this. Um, I think Rob is destined for greatness at this point, and I think it's gonna take a great fighter to really have a chance of dethroning him. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you want to see any similar videos in the future, and like the video, comment, subscribe. Anything is appreciated. And remember, all greatest fighters leave it all in the final round. Peace. Yeah.